Hey, this is the World Advice Channel 2. What I want to talk about today is my thoughts on Kanye West's Heil Hitler song. So for this video, I'll discuss how we should see Kanye, especially after he made a song like this, regardless of the legacy and so on and so forth he has made, in a logical and straightforward way so anyone can understand it. So now that I mentioned that, let's get started. So when it comes to the problem with Kanye West's Heil Hitler song. What exactly is the message I want to get across when it comes to you know, how we should see Kanye West, despite the controversial song, his of course very prolific musical legacy. Well, the simple answer to that question is that it's time for us to move on, because the truth of the matter is, especially being a black person and as black people in general, we need to realize that it is just simply time to move on. Kanye West is a nutcase at this point. He has said every and anything to offend everyone. He just says things and he just doesn't think, and so on and so forth. And it just builds up and builds up and builds up, of course, the things that he says, and you realize at the end of the day, this guy is just absolutely freaking insane, in honesty. He's pretty much an example of like when you're like a little kid, like those times that like in your head you're thinking about, all the controversial, terrible things you can say, for that matter, in your head when especially after you've had an embarrassing experience where you might have said the wrong thing, just really in all honesty, just repeated in that person's head over and over and over again. In other words, to sum up what I'm trying to say, he's pretty much just reminds you of when you're a little kid and you're like paranoid of like saying the wrong things. It's just that he says those things out loud. He's completely just vile with the things that he says, okay? And the song itself, in all honesty, is obviously not the greatest, and you can even tell by the way his voice was speaking that he clearly has mental health problems for that matter, which of course it's been obviously had it for years, but it's even more apparent when you listen to his song. Besides, the truth of the matter is when it comes to, of course, not just talking about the song in itself, but also, of course, as a result, the of course, you know, for that matter, okay, to put it bluntly, um, the song of itself, the truth is, like I was saying before, at least I think I said before, it's time for us to move on. And when it comes to moving on, it should be easier for us to move on than it's ever been in the history of music, let alone humankind for that matter, or mankind. Let's just be honest. That's the best term to say. Okay, because in this day and age, we have so much people who can make good music and just make good quality beats for that matter, because obviously we have the internet and there's so many people on it and so on and so forth, and as a result there's so much stuff out there that it's easier to make something enjoyable that obviously, of course, you know, um, than it's ever been. Even when you listen to some of those lo-fi songs, they use for YouTube background music, for videos like Lakey Inspired and so on and so forth. Yes, yes, yes. I know there's a difference between songs you want to listen to relax and songs that get you going like you want to go to the club or something. But even still, you can still tell that the quality of craftsmanship is still there when it comes to how good we can make beats. Because the truth is, when it comes to, like I was saying before, of course, making beats, let alone music in general, for that matter, that actually is good, whether it's good lyricism, you know, good beats, whatever, it's still possible. It's just that the foundation that is out there, which is mumble rap and trap music, which is shit. Let's be honest. Boom bap was way better, for that matter. Okay, everything from the sound of the beat to the way the people, of course, wrote their lyrics and so on and so forth. that is still something we can still do. And we can obviously produce that stuff and move on from Kanye. Because even though he has left a cemental, a stronghold more like in rap music, in all honesty, the truth of the matter is you can still move on from it. You can still experience new things, new memories, new experiences, and so on and so forth. You know, all those things together, put together in one, if you actually take the time to try to for people to actually produce new things. Because it's a problem everyone always says, and why people still listen to Kanye West is that everyone always says, well, I still listen to Kanye West because because his the music of the day is so bad and so on and so forth. But the music of the day is so bad because the foundation of it is bad. But it still doesn't mean you can't simply make good new music. Talent is always there. Anyone can write good lyrics if they're trying, especially if they're consciously trying and to put in effort to not mumble, in all honesty. Because that's the truth of the matter, is that you can make good music any period of time. It's just simply producing your own record labels and all that sort of stuff. And obviously not everyone wants to be make music, you know, you know, which obviously is common sense, but you can support artists who actually make songs that actually are good and are enjoyable, and create your own niche audiences, and over time it grows. Because if you haven't realized what my message for this video is that it's time for people to move on and create new music and move on from Kanye. He's a nutcase. There's a lot of good music out there, and even if he made good music, there's a lot of good music that can still be made that obviously can make us pretty much overlook the fact that he even made music in the first place, especially with the way he's acting and he's carrying on, in all honesty, for that matter, okay? To be honest with you, there's so much good music that can be made. There's so many sounds, instruments that have been experimented with. It's just that the artists who make our music are just not doing a fucking good job. And as a result, we see what the result of it at the end of the day, which is how bad music of today fucking is. And that's the truth of the matter, but it can still be made. Besides, in the end of the day, um, aside from getting this message out there, which hopefully through getting this message out there, hopefully it can help create change for things, because obviously the internet's a public forum, and you might have people who watch this who, of course, say, hey, why don't I start making music? And also, secondly, on the other hand, you have people who say, hey, I would be willing to support talented acts and so on and so forth, and then they start doing it. Besides, in the end of the day, aside from the main message of this video, which is to encourage people to move on from Kanye, and the best way to do it is to make good new music and so on and so forth, the truth of the matter is, when it comes to this particular topic, we also need to realize the psychological element of this particular situation, which is that it's not good for Black people, especially with the history we've had, to consume media by people, whether they, of course, do not like us, like rock music, which a lot of rock music I don't follow because I know a lot of the artists do not like us, and especially heavy metal. From what I've heard has a long history of expressing extreme anti-black racism and stuff. Which obviously, if you're listening to something by someone who doesn't like you, then that doesn't says good things about how much you love yourself. Also, when it comes to Black people who sell out and go crazy, or just in general Uncle Toms. But I don't think Kanye West is an Uncle Tom. I think he's just crazy. It's not good for your mental health, and it can obviously leave a psychological impact on you and screw you up very much in the long run, which of course results in self-hate. And that's the question I want to ask you: is taking a risk of hating yourself as a Black person worth it just because, oh, he made good songs, so on and so forth? Sometimes in life you just have to use common sense and street smart to just move on. That's simply the truth of the matter. He completely fell off. He went insane. And that's the truth. And what I mean by fell off, I don't mean like fell off like he's not doing as well commercially in terms of the success his music's doing. He fell off like, no, he's just not doing well in life. And that's the truth of the matter when it comes to this particular situation, is that that's what we have to do, is we have to move on. And that's the message of this video, because at the end of the day, when it comes to self-preservation and self-love, that is the most important lesson and message of all, more than anything else in the world. And that's one of the keys to happiness. If you want to experience true, genuine happiness, okay, is self love. And if you don't have self love, then you're simply going to, well, go nowhere. And that's the truth of the matter in the end of the day. So, in short, it's time for us to move on because it's not worth taking a risk of for a lot of black people at least to end up just becoming screwed up in the head psychologically. In other words, self-hate. So anyway, this is my video. I hope you enjoyed it. And just remember, if you like this video video and videos like this, remember to thumbs this video up and hit the subscribe button. And this is all I have to say. And simply put, I'm out. So bye.